I have a long list of, you know, activities that I've undertaken in my journey, and it's always a little embarrassing when you see it like this. But really, I'd like to say I'm your typical engineer. I try to fix everything. I can't stop connecting dots and seeing connections between everything that I run into, all the different the deep sciences like nanomedicine, the engineering. But really, I'm driven by purpose, and I like to believe that all my work helps the world just be a little bit better, and I get to earn a living while I do that. And some examples, I brought deep stimulation to Canada and other neuro devices. I worked with BC Hydro on its first renewable energy calls. I have a patent on lithium ion modular batteries that have enabled a whole generation of new neurostimulation devices and cochlear implants. And I started the first carbon offsetting company, BC. And I bring this up not as bragging, but more like I could have all the qualifications, but for myself, purpose is what drives me to do all this type of work. And education is one of those purposes. And later on in the presentation, it'll become more apparent on why that's important. So the objective today is simple: to gain insight into three new mindsets and review the seven elements of a simple pitch. And I want to recognize that this material is not all original. Some of it has come from UBC, some of it from Dr. Alicia Main, some of it from Sarah Lubick, Dr. Sarah Lubick, some of it from my own course, some of it from Simon Sinek, and that is, there's very little original, and my job is to bring it all together and make it as simple as possible. What I'll be giving you is in 45 minutes is, what some people take 3 years to do, and in our own program at SFU we take 8 months to do this. So it's going to come at you quick, and there's a lot of information, but ask questions, and I'm happy to answer anything along the way. Now there's three really important mindsets that I think every scientist should adopt. And the first one is science and scientists by nature are, are entrepreneurial. It's okay to do good and make money, and everybody sells. And let's jump into the first one. And so entrepreneurialism is not natural to scientists, or at least they don't think it is. But the act of being a scientist is an entrepreneurial activity. Most scientists I know are resilient. They're persistent. They hit a wall, but they keep going. Uh, they have a level of self-esteem, a certain level of confidence, a very high tolerance for ambiguity. Uh, Very imaginative. Most of the scientists I work with they're not linear thinkers. They can think big, they can think small, and they have a great ability to recognize an opportunity. And why I bring this all up is that if you're going to be pitching, you can't go up there and go, well, I'm a scientist, I'm not an entrepreneur. All scientists have a certain level of entrepreneurialism because it's not easy to be a scientist. But having an entrepreneur mentality does not mean that you have to run a company. There's lots of different ways for people to exhibit their entrepreneurial behavior. It could be as a leader in your lab. It could be as a connector between different departments. Um, it could be running a venture. So, I bring this up because it's important that you remember, as scientists, you are already quite entrepreneurial, and you bring this to your work every day. So that's the first mindset. Scientists are entrepreneurs at heart. The second one, it's okay to do good and make money. And I bring this up because, in the program that I teach, the first lesson that we have to do is to um, remind the scientists that I know that they get up in the morning and they don't generally say, how am I going to make a lot of money? They generally say is, how do I make the world a little bit better? And there's a general distrust of money among the scientists that I teach. And I want to say it's okay to do good and make money. And there's many instances of it. Stem cell technologies does a lot of good, and they do good in the province, they do good with students, they do good with their customers, and they make money, and that's okay. Um, and this brings up the idea of purpose. And purpose is a company's reason for for being that simultaneously helps solve a problem and creates financial value. That's from a group called the Shared Value Initiative, and I really highly encourage you to check the Shared Value Initiative out. But the most important part is that people don't follow dollars; they follow a purpose. And the best example I could give is if we were face to face, I would ask you, how many of you have worked for a not-for-profit for no money at all, and scratched your head and said, "Wow, I'd love to make this my job," and you're not getting paid? How many of you have, worked in a job that didn't pay a lot of money because you really believed in it? People will follow purpose. It mobilizes people in a way that pursuing profits alone never will. And I say this to you because as you start your ventures, you are going to get people who want you to focus on your exit strategy, how much money you're going to make. Once you start doing that, you're going to lose track of why you started the organization, and it's going to hurt the morale of the company, and it's going to make it harder to get up. So keep focusing on the purpose. Use it as your weather vane. Use it to check that you're making good decisions. Purpose should be significant, authentic, profitable, serious. What that means is if you're going to have an impact, it should be the right size of the impact, and it should come from your heart. It should be about helping a community, not about the money. It's got to be profitable. If you want to be able to keep making money, you got to be able to, if you want to be able to keep making an impact, you need to be able to afford to do it. So purpose should be significant, authentic, and it should be serious, meaning that you should uh, be have your senior leaders and be accountable for achieving their purpose and reflecting it in their goals. And the best example is Boeing, where the board didn't understand the purpose of getting when you get on a Boeing plane is that you're going to get off the plane. So they forced cost cutting that led to very serious accidents. It's more than greenwashing. There's a lot of greenwashing going on, but purpose is at the heart of the company. It's at the heart of what you do, and it drives innovation. When you think about car sharing, right? That's people people buying one product and sharing it. It's inclusive thinking, using voice recognition is an example of inclusive thinking. It's driving the innovations that drove the vaccine so quickly. So purpose drives innovation. I think this is one of the most important slides. Well, I should move on. We all sell. This is the one that most scientists have a problem with. Most scientists believe most salespeople they're going to run into are liars. They're only concerned with money. But we've all been selling. We've been selling since we're little. We sold our parents on getting us that bicycle we want. We sold our supervisors on hiring us. But we all sell. And it's easier to sell when you're selling something you believe in. So I encourage you to think about selling as having a conversation with someone that you're really interested in what they do, and if what you're doing fits them, then it's awesome. And you write grants, you're going to be pitching at competitions, and so you cannot say it's someone else's job to sell. It's all of our jobs. And I bring up those three mindsets because commercializing science is hard. It's science-based businesses take a long time, and there's a lot of uncertainty. So the better you are at selling, at being an entrepreneur, and at really focusing on the purpose of the organization, the easier time you'll have on the commercialization. And these are some of the areas you could bring your entrepreneurship skills. And I know this is about pitching, but these are fundamental to pitching is these entrepreneurship skills. And I encourage you to take a course. I encourage you to practice doing these pitches. And you'll use these skills in leading your lab, in writing grants, in maybe even starting your own spin-off. But you'll be using these pitching skills all the time. So I love this quote. The quote to me is, there's three keywords we're going to hear all over and over: that people solve real problems derive value. And driving value is what we want to do. And not value dollar wise, but value to the community, value to solving a problem. So these are the foundations of a pitch, and 6 elements. And here you go. There's 7 elements. I wish I could correct this now. Um, there's an opening, and there's why you need it. And the why is really important. We're going to start with the why: what the innovation is, what it provides, how it compares to competitors, the market itself, and the ask. And these 7 elements, as I said that I'd be doing, this is a really basic pitch. And in this 45 minutes that we have, we can't do much more. But if you follow this template, you'll be able to get up in front of uh, someone at a cocktail party and in 30 seconds say what your innovation is, why it's important, and what you're looking for. Or if you have 5 minutes, you'll be able to expand on it. So please, if there's questions, stop me and ask. So let's start with the why. I wish I made this up. I am humbly saying this. Simon Sinek is the inventor of starting with why. Highly, highly recommend you watch this video. And the idea is that whenever you start a pitch, is you want to emotionally connect with your audience or listener. And what it would sound like is, I don't know. My name's Clay Braziller, and I am working on a new drug for people with prostate cancer. That 75% of males age 55 and over suffer from this, and I'm sure there's a few people in the room whose dad, grandfather, brother has suffered through the complications of prostate surgery and not being able to take care of the problem. I mean, I just made this up on the spot, but right away, there's probably a few out there who are going, yeah, I saw my dad go through that. I saw my grandfather go through that. So that's relatable. I gave a percentage, a number of people, so it's quantifiable, and there's a compelling statement when I say I'm working on a solution to end the problem of people going through prostate surgery. It's compelling, although I don't know what my solution is yet. And why it's compelling, it's because we don't buy the what, we buy the why. And meaning is, um, we buy Apple products because the marketing message from Apple, their purpose was to challenge a status quo, and I'm just reading this off another page. We aim to think differently. Our products are user-friendly, beautiful designed, easy to use. We just happen to make great computing products. And they deliver on that purpose of user-friendly, beautiful designed, easy to use in everything they do. And that's why if you've owned a Mac computer, you have no problem buying an iPhone, and it works great, and they interact. And then you buy the watch, and it works great. They really live their purpose of why are they doing this, as opposed to some of the Microsoft products where sometimes, I love my Surface, I scratch my head and wonder, why am I getting a bar on top and the bottom, and we don't understand why. That's on my screen that I'm looking at now. And so we purchase through the limbic brain, which is trust, emotions, decision making, and how it makes us feel. So what that looks like for this MRE, this is a fake company, and it's their why. Millions of men in the US are impacted by prostate cancer each year, a relatable element, at an enormous human and societal cost. Very compelling. 75% of those 1 million annual biopsies for prostate cancer in the US produce inconclusive results, translating to 4 billion loss, 8% of patients being hospitalized for complications. So this is a statement that is compelling, and it's relatable, and it has a quantity attached to it. It's a great why statement. So the next one is, what I would ask is in the audience. Now we were going to do this interactively, is but you can do this on your own. Is what's your why? What problem do you seek to solve, and who cares? And practice saying it in 30 seconds or less. If you could aim for a grade 7 level of writing, that would be really great. Now, um, I don't know if we can actually have people share their verbally share their why. But while I'm moving on, if someone wants to work on their why, and if we can have them share it, that'd be great. Or if we can have them just put it into the um, as not as a question, but as a comment, we'd love to hear them too. So I'm going to move on, but if one or two people in the audience want to take a shot at their why, I'd love to hear them. The next is what the innovation is. This is the description you might see on a label for a product. It's what it is, how it is used, who might use it, and the benefit it supplies. We should have this be understandable by an average person. Here's one for Medtronic that I found. For the Ling 2 insertable cardiac monitoring system. The Ling 2 insertable cardiac monitoring system is the world's first accurate ICM, personalized for patients' lifestyle, customized for the clinician's workflow. It's ideal for patients experiencing infrequent symptoms that require long-term monitoring or ongoing management. So what it is, it's an insertable cardiac monitoring system. Pretty clear, one line, what it is, how it is used. It's personalized for the patient and customized for the clinician's workflow. So how it is used. Then, who might use it? It's ideal for patients experiencing infrequent symptoms. And I should have highlighted clinicians as well. And the benefit it supplies, it helps people who require long-term monitoring or ongoing management. So it's a pretty simple, what statement. And the important part is it is a cardiac monitoring system. It could have been a software system, a drug delivery system. Um, that's the what, how it's used, and who might use it. And it's very short and very quick. Another example for the MRE. It's a ultrasound probe and software that allows radiographers to detect, quantify, and stage prostate cancer tissue, providing genitourinary specialists with clear and concrete diagnosis for their patients. So what it is an ultrasound probe and software. How it is used is to detect, quantify, and stage prostate cancer tissue. Who might use it in the benefit is a genitourinary specialist with clear diagnosis for their providing concrete diagnosis for their patients. I should learn how to read. So I think that's a pretty good example. And as you can see in the next box, I'm giving you an ability. So how I designed this presentation, by the way, is that if we were less people, I'd break us out into breakout rooms and we'd work on this. I have a question in the chat here. Oh, here's one. Oh, from Alicia Main. Alicia Main, or Dr. Main, it runs the Eye-to-Eye program at SFU, and her why is helping more university researchers make positive impact from their research. That's a great why. And I think what I like about the why is that it's specific. It's university researchers and helping them make and what it is have positive impact. And I know that Alicia can actually measure that impact. Thank you, Alicia. So as I was saying, because we're not going to be able to break out into rooms, you can take this presentation home and actually fill these boxes out on your own, and then build up to that basic pitch. So what I would ask is you draft a short what statement for your innovation. So a simple line that describes what the product is. So it's a software product. It's an RNA drug delivery product. It's a whatever, it's up to you, but very simple one line, what it is. And think about if there was a label attached to it that describes, the what it does. So use simple, clear language that a layperson can understand. And when we look at the previous slide, it's really quite easy. It allows radiographers to detect, quantify, and stage prostate cancer tissue. It's anyone could understand it, more or less. So try to use that layperson language. Touch on who might use it and how they might use it, and practice speaking it out loud. The statement shouldn't take more than 15 seconds to say. So while I'm moving on, if anyone wants to take a stab at their what statement and share it with the group, that would be fabulous. So target market. The target market. Now, the understanding who your target market is perhaps one of the most important aspects of your pitch. So we're all familiar with the saying you can't be everything to everyone. It's the same with your innovation. It's impossible to be everything to everyone. So the better you understand your target market, the more closely you'll be able to focus the features of your innovation. Find those first people who are willing to adopt the technology, the early adopter. It's a phrase you'll hear more often, and create that value. In what I teach, which is an opportunity assessment, understanding your market is the equivalent to sailing. It's you got to know the weather and the seas that you're venturing into, and knowing that target market in your segment is like understanding the storms you're going to expect. Are there countries that regulate the waters that you're traveling through, and what features you need in that boat to make it across the ocean and be successful? So one of the biggest mistakes that we see entrepreneurs make is that they don't select the target market, and they also never take their innovation out to who they've chosen as that market and validate that people really want it. And I think the makers of Segway discovered that. They not Segway. They created their innovation, and they found that there was no market for it. Or Google Glasses. They never really verified that there was a market for the innovation itself, and it failed. So how do you know a market is valid? So first of all, it's identifiable. You can describe it and measure it. So you can count people, you can measure spending power. So the idea is that if you truly can't Google it, it's probably not a valid market. It's significant. Now, in in certain markets like rare diseases, the size might not be there, but in general, it should be big enough to justify someone investing in. And in the case of rare diseases, there are not-for-profits who have uh, been created to aid the development of the medicines. But for the most part, the market should be large enough that you could justify the investment. It should be actionable, meaning that it should be a market that you can actually design your innovation to and sell it at a profit, meaning that it's great if you could identify it. It's great that it's growing, but if you actually can't sell anything to it and make a living, and one of those markets, unfortunately, has been uh, augmented reality. It's a market that is identifiable, everybody wants it, and the companies I know in it have had the roughest time making a living. So they have found out that it's actionable, but hard to actually grow your company. And it should be accessible. Can we communicate with it? So, you know, kids with autism in elementary school, it is a market, it's huge, it's significant, there's a lot of money spent on it, but it's a really hard market to communicate with because it's generally it's in every school will have a group of people a group of concerned parents who are together, and you have to communicate with them, and it's really hard to find them. So it's not that accessible a market, and I see that in some of the other companies that I work with. So this is how you know a market is valid, and it's strategic. So in the end, will it be stable, and can you defend it? And that's important because some markets go away very quickly and or evaporate. And I've worked in some military markets, and while there's a war, it's great. And when the war goes away, and the market goes away and companies go bankrupt. So that's not the best example, but being strategic, having a strategic market is important. So the value of your market segment. So there's three concepts here: the total addressable market, the serviceable market, and the serviceable obtainable market. So an example is of the total addressable market is the electronic medical records is a total market. The market size is I think 52 billion, probably larger. Um, Single clinics is a market segment within the electronic medical market. Chains of clinics is another segment deeper within the market. Clinics who only want cloud-based electronic medical records is another segment within the total market. And clinics who only want in-house enterprise systems is another. And why I bring this up? Because your total addressable market is not the whole market for electronic medical records. Your total addressable market will be the segment of the market that you choose that for your opportunity to where it fits best. The serviceable available market represents what you can serve with your products and services. The obtainable market represents the size of the market that you can realistically capture and serve over a period in time. In other words, if the SAM that's available for your market is $100 million, it doesn't mean that your market itself that you can capture is 100 million. What you might be able to capture over the next 3-4 years might be 5 million of that. So the question is, what is your target market, and how are you going to, and how is it segmented, and what's its size? So another exercise. So draft a short paragraph that states your market, its size, and why it is strategic, and then practice delivering it out loud. So if you can be clear and precise as you describe it. And here's an example. We provide artificial intelligence-based electronic medical record training to large hospitals in the United States. The target market for our services are the education directors and IT departments responsible for training EMR users. The total available market for our services is 3.25 billion. The market is driven by the need to retain physicians, to reduce burnout, to drive the use of the EMR. So again, I ask you, what's your target market? And can you write it out in a clear and concise manner? And I'm going to stop for a second, see if anyone wants to share a why statement. And I don't see anything in the chats, or if there's questions. So we've been going pretty quickly, and I'd like to give everyone a chance to ask questions if they have any. So nothing, so I'll just keep going. So the competition. A competitor is any organization that provides a superior benefit to your product and is targeting the same customer. It's important to remember that the firm you directly compete with today may not be the one you're competing with tomorrow. They may not even be created yet. And This is important because when you look at who your competition is, you're going to look at not only the people you consider direct in competition, but people who may be indirect. So if I was making a uh, an implantable defibrillator, and I had the newest type of implantable defibrillator, obviously Medtronic is a competitor. But if I'm working on this device, there might be other people working on a device like this too. And so I'd want to do a scan of other medical device companies who might have the capability but just haven't done that yet. That would be an indirect competitor. It's important to remember that price is rarely a reason that rarely a sustainable competitive advantage, meaning that most people will price is important, but there are other aspects that are also important when you're looking at your innovation. And for example, is it easier to use? So while your price may be higher, does the use of the product make it that the training costs are less or that the adoption is higher? So easier to use can be a value. Easier to maintain. Your price may be higher than your competitors, excuse me, but is your product less expensive to maintain? And when I think of a Tesla versus some of the other luxury cars, Teslas are very simple to maintain. It's all done through a software download. So though the price may be higher, they're easier to maintain. You're not doing brakes as often. So people are add that into the calculation of the value. Can you get faster results with less effort? Faster, excuse me, faster is good, but faster with better results and less effort is even better. So uh, is your product faster and takes less people to deliver those results or less services to deliver the results? Is it easier to dispose of? In the biotech industry, the disposal of the disposal of material is a cost. And one of the groups I've been working with is looking at drug delivery systems that don't have to be treated as biohazards. So can you decrease the cost of disposal? And similarly, can you decrease the cost of storage? Can you provide a medicine that doesn't require or a vaccine that doesn't require um, refrigeration? And if you don't have to, I was working with one scientist from SFU who created a petri material that didn't require refrigeration. And so that decreased the cost of storing the material and made people want to buy the material more often. Does it last longer? Meaning I don't have to replace it as often. Does it take up less space to store? Um, is it easier to purchase? These are all ways to look at your competitors. So the question that I have for you is, how are you unlike the competition? Draft a couple lines with only one or two maximum points maximum that clearly and concisely say how your innovation is superior to a competitor's. Consider some of the attributes described on the previous slide. Cheaper is not a competitive advantage. Cheap sends a message that it's not good quality, number one. So try not to use the word cheaper in your descriptions. Less expensive is also not a competitive advantage. I'm always telling people that no matter what you say, there's going to be someone who is willing to do it less expensively than you. And we're going to see this more and more in our supply chains that are uh, being returned to North America from China. So here's the ask. The important part of an ask is, oh, good question. Um, Adrian, how do you obtain trustworthy market information about your product segment? Do you pay companies for that? Adrian, a, a that's a great question. And so the where you can get this information, if you're part of SFU, you can go to the business librarian, and a lot of the reports that you want about your competitors are free. And not free in turn, but if you're part of the SFU, these reports are part of the database. If you live in Vancouver, you have access to the public library. And in the public library, you can search on databases that will provide you, such as Frost and Sullivan, that will provide you comparisons to your competition or provide you information on the market itself. When I want information, I'll go to Google, I'll type in size of the MRE market, and a number of reports will come up, and the reports give me enough information to know market size and who are the main players. And they also give me enough information to know which companies are creating these reports. So what I can do with that is I'll go to my business librarian and I'll tell them the name of the report, and they'll generally help me see if we actually are able to get that report through our library. At SFU, these reports, we have a subscription to Frost and Sullivan, and you are basically getting, I hate the word free because nothing's free, but you're getting to view and make use of reports that are worth $5,000, $6,000 if you were to buy them. Um, if you're to buy them, from the market itself. Another great place to get market information is uh, to call a supplier in the industry. They're a great source of information about the industry itself. And I often will start with calling a competitor. Most competitors are willing to share information about the market, about what they find difficult in addressing the market, some of the issues, some of the barriers. As long as you're not asking people to give away confidential information, you're going to find that people are really generous in helping you understand the market. And hopefully that answers the question. Thank you. From Samira, what if you don't have direct competitors for your market? What's the best way to validate your technology without giving your IP information? That's a really good point. Everybody has a competitor. You just don't know about it yet. And I say that uh, because I've never seen anyone without a direct competitor. Sometimes a direct competitor is status quo. Just doing nothing can be a direct competitor. Um, I'm this is not a nano medicine type of example, but my house needs painting. There's paint paint companies coming by all the time. Their biggest competitor is me being okay with the paint flaking off my house. I am just okay with the status quo. Uh, so everyone has a direct competitor. Status quo is probably the biggest one. And the best way to validate your technology without giving away your IP information. If you go back to the purpose that we talked about, the why, there will be people who, you're designing your innovation for a specific group of people. You can go back to them and validate that what you're working on is going to solve their needs without giving the IP information away. In other words, you can say what it is without saying how it works, right? So I can talk about a deep brain stimulation and using a device that paces a particular part of the brain, and but I don't have to tell you how the device works. I don't have to tell you my algorithm for how we're going to pace it. I don't have to tell you um, the process I'm going to use to install that device. I don't have to tell you the type of battery I'm going to use to make it implantable for the patient. So I can validate if there is a market for deep brain stimulation to reduce Parkinson's. Excuse me. But I never have to give away my IP. So I hope that helps. And as scientists, we always generally want to start with a deep explanation of how it works, where people really want to know what it does and will it solve my needs? So first why and the how, and then like how, then what it actually is. So I hope that answers your question. So the ask. This is the last part of the presentation, and it's really important to have an ask and um, to understand who your audience is and what they can help with. And from all my years of working with people, you know, whenever someone gets up and does a presentation and they make it sound like everything's fantastic, I scratch my head and I wonder, well, then what do you need me for? Why did you make me listen to this if you're not going to ask me for anything? Thank you for the education, but how can I help you? So put it out to the world. Ask a question. You'll be amazed at how people help. Uh, be clear on what you're looking for a partner to bring to the market. You might be clear on what you're looking for a partner to do. You might want them to help you bring the innovation to the market. You might want them for co-creation. You might want a mentor from the audience to help guide you through the next process, the next development cycle. You might be looking for money. Be prepared to answer questions on what you want these people to do, what you want to do with the funds that people give you. It's generally, if I've seen people ask for, five, 10,000, $100,000, but they haven't thought about what they'll do when they get the money. And it's important to, before you go into the presentation, to think about, well, if I'm asking for 100,000, what am I going to do with the money? If I'm asking for a mentor, what do I want that mentor to help me with? Try to, pre-think the questions that people are going to ask and have them ready already before you go in. Be bold and put your ask out to the world. As I said, people are generally quite supportive. And as your homework, write down 5 asks and then prioritize them to the top 2. And I have a question here. Oh, Diana, go ahead.
Thanks, Clay. It's interesting because when you watch Shark Tank, it's
Right.
super interesting because the ask becomes very critical to whether or not the sharks accept that decide they're going to take someone on and help them develop their product and get it to market. And it was so interesting when you said that you may want mentorship and you may want money. So I noticed when I watched that show that a lot of people, when they put their ask out there, they put out a huge amount of money.
Right.
And that puts everybody off. They're like, what you really need is mentorship or market access or product development support. And they also are looking for how much collateral investment the inventor has got in the product or the service that they intend to provide. So, from your experience, how do you pick that dollar amount in relation to the other things you might need, and how do you prioritize the investors you're approaching if you need money and market access, or you need multiple partners investing? So, it gets complicated when you get to certain points in that commercialization valley of death. And what are your lessons learned and advice in that regard?
Well, that is a huge, it's a great observation and a huge question. So let me start by saying that why, when they go into the Shark Tank and they make that ask and the sharks look at them like they're out of their minds, it's because the ask is out of proportion to where they are in the innovation, in the venture. So if you go in and you've had $10,000 of revenue and you really haven't even gone to the market, and then you're asking for $100,000 for 10%, you're saying your valuation, that the value of this innovation is millions of dollars, but you have not proved it. So they're going to look at you and go, yeah, I'm out. And they'll look at the market and they'll say, yeah, you're creating a new soap, and that is a crowded market. It's It's you're creating a new soap for moms who are pregnant, and it's a hard market to reach. It's crowded. It's all when you go back to the slide on your on market, it's all the things that make a market not um, quite desirable. So again, they'll say, well, it's too crowded. There's not enough margin. It's not strategic. I don't see it lasting. It's a fad. I'm out. Um, so those are, and generally those ventures are too early, and they've drank their own Kool-Aid, meaning that they they just believe they're so fantastic. And I think that we have to be realistic. And the the people who pitch and win are they have vision, but they're also very realistic on where they are. And it's important to say to be realistic and say, look, I've just started, and even if someone gave me $500,000, I I there's an I've seen this at SFU. Even if they gave us some of the ventures that we want, if they gave us 500,000, we literally couldn't be able to spend it. It would sit in a bank, right? So don't ask for it. What you may need, right, in the very beginning is enough money to do a prototype, and it's highly risky. So it won't be from people who are looking for a 10% return or a 30% return in the next 3 years. Those are the wrong people. It'll be from someone who really tolerates risk. So, not, I mean, I can answer your question for an hour on its own, but the important thing when you go out to ask is to be realistic on where you are and what you need and who's in the audience. So don't ask people who want to make a lot of money very quickly to invest in something that's got a 10-year life cycle. It's the wrong audience.
Just to follow up on that final comment you made, who are the types of investors who are willing to stick it out with you for that 10-year, 10 years to an overnight success kind of piece of the
Hmm.
continuum?
Who are they? Um, or I guess where do I find them and who are they? Um, they are depending where you are. They're friends and family who trust you and they'll stick it out. Um, there are specific investment firms who are used to dealing with long-term investments. Medical, for example, is always long-term. Material science, I know Alicia is on the phone, is even longer term. And often the government is a partner in the really long-term investments. Um, this is part of doing your homework to understand who is the audience. Philanthropic, yes, you're right, Alicia. And in rare diseases, when you look at people like the Gates Foundation, we look at the Chan Zuckerberg Foundation, these people are willing to stick it out for the long term. Um, so it's really important to do your homework and know who you're talking to, and go back to purpose. Like if your purpose is to have an impact on malaria, then uh, you're not coming to the local Vancouver, angel scene to ask for money because it's going to take a long, long time, and it's probably longer than these people are willing to take to get a return on investment. You're going to go to the Gates Foundation for that type of investment. So
Great.
I hope that answers that.
That's great. We have 10 minutes left.
Yeah,
Do you have more slides or do you want to take more questions?
I am basically done. I could so the um, just move the chat over. So it's really important to learn how to tell your story of your innovation quickly. You may be at a Zoom event, you may be in front of potential investors, but the ability to tell your story is important. The introduction should give enough information for someone without the main knowledge to understand what you're doing. In general, um, it's better to say less and be clear. On the next page, I have a pitching exercise for everybody to take home, and it uses all the other slides and the templates. And I ask you to write a 3-minute, 1-minute, and 30-second pitch. Video yourself in the time that, in each of those times. And think of it like a Pecha Kucha. You only have time to make 1 or 2 points per slide. And when you're reviewing your recording, check that you stated your full name. I see this all the time. People don't say their name clearly, that you did speak clearly, not too quick, not too slow, especially if English isn't your first language. Really, record yourself and make sure you're speaking at a speed that you feel comfortable and that people can follow you, that you can deliver it in the allotted time. You're going to be cut off in any pitch competition. And if you finish early, if you have 15 seconds left, consider what you could put in, what piece of information you can put in. This is the template that I'm giving you. The opening, choose a picture that represents the opportunity for your innovation. It should be memorable. State your name, gives you your qualification, what gives you the right to be up there. Don't forget to put your contact information. State the purpose. Grab their emotional, grab them emotionally. Connect with your audience. What your innovation is, the product description, be concise, and you could read the rest. I'm going to stop here. That is literally the whole presentation. Some resources in order of my preference. I love creating shared value, and I love knowing a winning business idea and my contact information. And Alicia, that's a great point. May 27th, there'll be some great pitches going on. And now I'd love to take more questions.
Terrific. Thank you very much, Clay. Maybe for the Q&A session, we could go back to your first or second slide where you provided sort of the characteristics of an entrepreneur mindset, entrepreneurial mindset. I thought that was a fascinating slide. And it just illustrates how transferable the skills are from multiple areas of expertise. It's not discipline specific. And I really like this because I think it's a way of being, and
Mhm.
you can entrepreneurial mindset is really a way of being, regardless of where you sit. You have the opportunity to perceive the world in an entrepreneurial way, which enables you to enhance your impact and the benefits that you have in whatever you're doing. And I really did think that comment you made about how many of you have volunteered for things because they generated they seemed worthy. You felt good about doing it. You feel like you're making a difference and helping others. And I think that really resonates within a network of centers of excellence, because we're all trying to build a community. It's enormously hard work, but we're
Mhm.
doing it for the greater good, not just for the benefit of each of us individually. But I always say they're transformational organizations, but you are transformed in the way you think. And I hope people are transformed in this way.
And and I really appreciate that. And I think the minute and Alicia can attest to this, when we're teaching and we see you see in the class people go from I'm just a scientist to I'm a scientist entrepreneur. You see the change. They start looking at problems differently. They start, you know, wanting to get out and validate, and it's a visual change in how people approach their problem. And the other piece that is I find people really influences people is purpose. It is the permission to say it's okay to do good and make money. And I find scientists especially are embarrassed to say I want to make money, but it's okay to do good and make money. And just keep focused on the purpose, because I'm working with a company in Revelstoke, and purpose drives them. It drives the type of money that they're taking. It drives the type of people that they hire, and it's an awesome company. And they make their decisions. They go, our purpose is to help people be healthy in what they eat. We can't work with that company because the purposes don't align, and they use it as a filter. And
Mhm.
so it really changes it gives people the permission to actually move forward. And the last one, believe it or not, is we all sell. Once I explain to people um, that that selling is just having a conversation with someone and sharing your passion. It's no longer selling anymore. It's helping someone achieve better because of what you're doing. Now, there is a question is, where can a startup find a laboratory? Well, it depends where you are a startup to begin with. If you were in Vancouver and you wanted to find a laboratory, and depending what you were doing, we might be, and which accelerator you were in, we might be able to find a space for you in one of our institutes here. We've done that with a company called Veritas, who we found a space for them in our material science lab. How to approach government for a longer investment option? Is there a portal or something you can share? There are a number of government agencies who do longer term investments, and they might not call it investment. They may call it a grant. They might call it a an interest-free loan. Business Development of Canada, BDC does this. Um, uh, My tax makes Montreal Biological Laboratories on it. Um, uh, BDC does this. The Van City actually is has a whole branch dedicated to social investment. They will make long-term investments. They made an investment in one of my customers, and it's a loan, but it's a long loan at next to no interest with really, really good terms to for paying it back. William will have to, I don't know anyone in Montreal, but we can probably work with Diana to get back to you. Oh, Diana answered. Okay. Um, and at the last slide I have is, I believe it's still there. It should be there. And this may be helpful for people. It is an entrepreneur cheat sheet. And it's just, there's a lot of new language. And don't let people bully you around with the language. I think you'll run into business people who are going to just try to intimidate you by talking about what's your runway, what's your ROI, is this B2B or B2C? It's just language. So this is your entrepreneur cheat sheet.